So, now that the 2020 Formula 1 season is over and done with, I thought I'd take a look at the cars themselves. These are some of the fastest cars the sport has ever seen, and some of the best looking as well. 10 teams, 23 drivers, and 20 different types of cars, and 14 liveries as well. Well, actually, I think it was only 11 that actually raced, but 14 showed up this year, and I'm going to rank each and every one of those liveries, because I have no life. So, starting off at number 14, it's the Williams race livery. It's a very, very plain livery, and there's a reason for that, because the livery they were originally going to race with, the Rocket livery, also known as sort of Colgate toothpaste livery, that kind of fell through after this Rocket sponsorship was dropped. So, understandably, Williams had to design something quickly, otherwise they were just going to be racing with a plain carbon car, using the Williams standard colours of white and blue, but there's way too much white, and there's those weird fake Mercedes stars on the rear. Yeah, it's very uninspired. Obviously it was very quickly designed, and it got worse towards the end of the season as for some reason they cut off some of the livery and just replaced it with straight carbon, and it just doesn't work. It looks even worse like that. So yeah, number 14, the Williams FW43 standard race livery. Next up is a livery that only saw the light of day during pre-season testing, and that's the Renault RS20 pre-season testing livery. I'm really not sure why they made a testing livery when they just used a version of the 2019 livery anyway for the season, so I don't know why they used a plain black livery. Maybe to try and disguise whatever aero advancements they made. Didn't really help them in the end. They still only made the 5th best car, technically. Because it was only present on the car for testing, it really has no thought or real imagination go into it. It's just plain black with the sponsors and some numbers on. The reason it's in 13th place instead of dead last, black is better than white. In 12th place, a car that normally I would like, the Ferrari SF1000. Yeesh. Yeah, this is the standard livery, by the way. The standard Ferrari livery of the 2020 season. It's just... yeah, the car is basically just a great big, slightly different copy of the 2019 SF90, and the livery, like, they just replaced the black bits with shiny red bits, and it doesn't really work for me. Like, it worked last year, because there was a lot of black on the car, and it really looks great, but replacing the black with shiny red, it's just a bit of a lazy attempt from Ferrari, if you ask me. I mean, they've had some great liveries over the years, and that's when they only really use red as their colours. And they've still been able to create some fantastic liveries, and this one, I just feel is weak. I just don't... it's just not great. I don't like the numbers either. Like, they had these retro numbers in 2017 and 2018, and then they sort of went back to these sort of 2016-esque numbers, but they put the national flags of their drivers at the top of it, and that was nice. And this is just flat, and it's just meh. Sorry, Ferrari, you're in 12th. In 11th place, another Ferrari-powered team, and the shill team. It's Haas, the VF20. You know, they had a very similar livery to this in 2018, and it worked. And this livery, it's okay. That's about it. It's okay. It sort of doesn't quite work as well as the 2018 livery. That massive black on the sides of the nose. it just sort of ends abruptly ahead of the air intakes, and I don't really know about that. Like, it looks good from an angle, but from the side, it's just not particularly great. It's also another completely, largely white car, and someone mentioned this not long after the Austrian Grand Prix. But some of the TV angles you saw this year, it looked like there was one team with 8 cars, because 4 of those teams are using largely white cars, and yeah, the Haas, it's okay, but yeah, just look at that. It's a bit meh, to be honest. And so we move into the top 10. And to start off the top 10, we go to France and the race livery for the Renault RS20. And it's basically just black with some yellow, and that's it. In fact, it's not as much yellow as the 2018 livery that the Renault wore, and I thought that was better than the one it's wearing, because it was either, whichever way you looked at it, it was either mostly black from one side or mostly yellow from another. But this time it's just mostly black. If I'm being honest, the revived Renault liveries have not really been all that good. But I'm rating this higher than the Haas because, well, it's got yellow on. It's a bit more colourful than the Haas and the Williams. And above the Ferrari as well, because even though this is basically the same livery that they had in 2019, the Ferrari livery is just so... they can do so much better. And Renault, well, I don't... maybe I'll miss these black and yellow cars, but, you know, I want to see how Alpine's gonna look. So, yeah. Sorry, Renault, you're number 10. So, we go from France to Germany for number 9, and it's the launch livery of the Mercedes W11. Now, I, like many others, have been rather tired of the Mercedes livery over these years. It's just silver, some black, some teal or turquoise or whatever to signify the Petronas sponsorship, and that's about it. I think the cars look okay, but they're rarely ever top tier liveries. 2019 was, yeah, a pretty decent livery, and then along came the 2021, which is more or less just the same, but with some red thrown in. And it's not the most inspired edition of red. Look at the end plates of the front and rear wings, and, you know, the addition of red there it's okay, yeah. I can live with that, but then there's this great big streak of it on the airbox, and a lot of people just thought it didn't quite go with the rest. I mean, it's hard not to imagine the Mercedes without that red streak now, but at the time it was first announced, when you first saw it, it was a bit weird. And yeah, it was basically just a 2019 livery with a bit of red, and maybe it was a little bit better than the straight 2019 livery, but it's almost exactly the same. And, you know, for Mercedes, they at least do try to make it look a bit different every year, but this year, it was just a straight copy, more or less, and that's just not really acceptable. I don't like that. Mercedes W11 launch at number 9. Number 8, it's the Alfa Romeo Sauber C39. Yes, now white can look good on a livery, and the Alfa Romeos tend to do it better than the other teams. Certainly better than this year's Haas offering, and obviously the Williams offering, which I just found very uninspired. It's an evolution of their 2019 livery, and whilst I've not been blown away by the Alfa Romeo liveries, I certainly do find myself quite liking this one. I would rate it below the 2019 livery though, mainly because it's a bit too similar. I mean, it has changed a few things up. It's changed the blue lines on the nose to red lines to try and distinguish it from the older Williams when they had Martini sponsorship. I do still think, though, that there's a bit too much white on the car, and maybe there should be a bit more red or just a slightly different livery, because this has the potential to be so much more, and they're just sort of sticking with something that they introduced in 2018 and have only evolved. They've not really innovated. So Alfa Romeo in number 8. At number 7, it's the pre-season livery of the Williams, and I've got to say it's such a damn shame that this never got to see a race, because I think it looks pretty damn good. Once again, there's a bit too much white on the car for my liking, and yes, some people have said, and I did say earlier in this video I think, that it does look a bit like a tube of Colgate toothpaste, but I like it. It's different from Williams. Sir Frank himself said that after 1999 his cars would never have red on them ever again, and yet here we are, and it's a stunner. Sure, the car itself was a bit of a pig, but at least it would have looked good. Some people have said that the numbers don't look great. I'm sort of mixed feelings on them. Sometimes they look okay, sometimes a bit meh. I think overall, though, this car looks very good, and it's just a shame it never saw anything else but pre-season testing, and we got that pretty rubbish one as a replacement. So moving on to number 6, it's the Red Bull RB16. This livery is an evolution of what was first put on the cars back in 2016. Back then, that matte Red Bull livery looked fantastic, and it still looks pretty damn good, but it's getting a bit tired, and since 2017 it's just not really changed, which is really bizarre. I mean, they've added the Aston Martin sponsorship, and they've changed the Tag Heuer logos to Honda, but it's really not changed. When the Honda partnership was announced, I was expecting something cool and risque or something for 2019, and then they brought along what is essentially the same car that you're looking at the screen right now. It's not really changed. And some people are saying, oh yeah, we're going to be looking back on these cars in 50 odd years or whatever, and we're going to say, oh yeah, these were real classics, like the black and gold John Player Special Lotus liveries of the 80s. Maybe, yeah. For me though, it's just not really hitting it anymore, because sure, I suppose it's a corporate livery, but it just doesn't really hit all the right spots anymore. It needs a refreshment. I won't be too disappointed if they keep using something like this, but it needs something else to happen to it, man, honestly. So, number 5, and we're moving to Woking for the orange McLarens, and you know that this is a real tough list when the papaya McLaren is only number 5. When McLaren first started doing the orange McLaren thing back in 2017, it's been sort of hit and miss since then. The 2017 one, I thought it was okay. 2018 was a bit plain. 2019 though, I think hit it right out of the park, the ballpark, and I thought the 2019 livery was fantastic. The 2021, it's still pretty good. I like the sort of shiny yet matte blue. I like the matte orange, but compared to the 2019 livery, it's just not as good. Look at the numbers on the nose there. It's very difficult to see. Like, I get that they're going with this sort of stripe aesthetic, but making the numbers stripy makes them very difficult to see. Don't get me wrong, I don't hate this livery. I do like it, I just don't like it as much as the 2019 livery, and it's not uninspired, it certainly is inspired in its own way. It's just not as good. I can't really say much more about it, it's just not as good as the 2019 livery. Let's move on to a car that is a colour that I didn't like when I was a kid. It's the BWT Racing Point. It's funny how the pink livery has grown on me in these past few years. I really didn't like the initial version from 2017, and I thought the 2019 version was also a bit meh. But the 2018 one and this 2020 BWT Racing Point livery is just absolutely fantastic. There's not too much white, there's not too much pink. It's sort of the perfect blend of pink and white and blue, and these three colours, they just go together so well. It's really strange. I don't quite like the addition of the silver on the wings, and there's that dark pink streak, which is kinda strange. But overall, I found the pink Mercedes to be a very attractive car this season, and I really like it. I just can't really stress out enough that if our top three didn't exist, this would be number one, I think, almost certainly. This is a fantastic livery, and it's just that bit of silver on the wings is kind of what lets it down, and the competition has been so incredibly strong this year. So, the first podium place belongs to the Ferrari 1000 livery, and this is just a fantastic livery. I know fantastic is probably an overused word in this video at this point, but it is just really nice. It's just a shame it's on such a dog of a car. The classic Rosso Corsa and that streak of yellow that makes up the 1000 GP logo. It's just the numbers that are made out to be hand painted. It's a blast from the past. The sponsors do stick out a bit like a sore thumb, but for the most part, they go quite well, actually. It's so much better than the standard livery is, and it's just a shame that it was used in just one race. And if this had been season long, maybe we would have got tired of it, but it's such a good looking livery, and I don't think we would have ever got tired of it. Oh well. So, if this was number 3, then the top 2, well, you know what the top 2 are by now, but what order are they going to be in? Well, it's very stiff competition. 2020 has been an absolute cracker for liveries. And in number 2, we are staying in Italy, ladies and gentlemen. AlphaTauri, or AlphaTauri, have really nailed this livery for the AT01. I was pretty skeptical when it was announced that Toro Rosso would be changing its name, and I really didn't think that the Toro Rosso livery could really be topped. I mean, that electric blue, the silver, the red, it was great, but I suppose it was a bit tired by 2019. It just didn't have the same energy that it had in 2017 and 2018. This has revitalized it. This is such a fantastic livery. Positively marvelous, positively first rate, for some extra words that aren't fantastic. I said on the Alfa Romeo that white on a livery can look great, and this is no exception. In fact, this is the rule of white liveries can look fantastic, can look great. Just look at it, man. I know I keep using the word fantastic, it's just absolutely superb. The navy, or sort of dark matte navy, I'm not sure if it is a navy blue. I know some people haven't been enthused by it, but for me, it is a fantastic looking car. I keep using that word, I must be turning into the 9th Doctor. I really just can't quite describe how good this car looks. It is absolutely timeless. I think this is certainly a car that we'll be looking at in 50 years and we'll be thinking, damn, this is such a good looking car. It's always when we first see it that we think it's fantastic, and then it pops up again in the next year and it still looks good, and then again and again and again it starts getting more and more tired. And sure, if it keeps being used, then yeah, it's gonna get tired, but this, right now, oh, it's so good. It is so good. Alpha Tauri, however you pronounce it, damn it. You have really nailed it for this one. You have created an absolutely stunning car, and I would gladly give this livery first place if my first place choice didn't exist or used its launch livery. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, number one, the best looking car of 2020, in my opinion, is the Mercedes W11 Black Edition. I feel really dirty for saying that. I never once thought that I would consider a Mercedes livery one of the best looking of the season, and they just blew everyone away with this. Not only because it looks fantastic, but because there's also that message behind it. They're standing behind Lewis Hamilton and the anti-racism movement. Of course, whilst it's great to have a message like that behind a livery, it's not the sole reason that this is number one. This list is based entirely on looks, and the Black Edition Mercedes W11 is without a doubt the best looking car of the season. It's so strange that Mercedes have created such a fantastic livery. They're always sort of playing second fiddle to someone else, and this time they have really nailed it, and they're apparently going to be doing something similar in 2021. And then they'll be going back to boring silver again, but at least we got 2 years of a fantastic looking Mercedes, so they can at least be dominating in style. Why does this version of the livery look so much better than the silver version? Well, simply put, the black. It's amazing just what a world of difference changing the silver for black has done. Suddenly, the red Ineos banner around the airbox that stood out like a sore thumb, suddenly it looks at home, because it's surrounded by a similarly dark colour, rather than the much brighter silver before. Now, it fits right in. It's almost like they planned this from the beginning. It's the same sort of thing with the turquoise Petronas stripe. Before, on the silver, it sort of just blended in a bit and didn't stick out. Now, it does, because it's on such a dark background. It sticks out. It makes it noticeable. That at least makes sense to me. Maybe if you've taken some doctorate in design or something, maybe it doesn't. Maybe those are strange reasons. Maybe that doesn't make sense. Oh, and the wheels as well, man. The wheels too. Oh man, I keep finding stuff to like about this car, how this car looks, and it's just, I think I've said all I can say about it. I know many people will agree with me, which is strange, because it's Mercedes. I'm not supposed to like a Mercedes, but I do. I like the Mercedes W11. It's my top pick. It's my number one best looking car of the 2020 season. Well, you've reached the end of the video. I have a factoid for you. Did you know that 99% of the people that watch my videos are not subscribed to me? Yeah, that's a bit of a travesty. So, you can imagine it would help me out immensely if all you did on this video was just press that big red subscribe button underneath the video. Like, comment, subscribe, whatever floats your boat. I don't care. One of them will work for me. It's fine. I'm not gonna beg and grovel for all this. It's not really my sort of jam. And hey, if you enjoy my videos, maybe consider sharing them to your friends. Maybe they'll like them too. Anyway, enough of that. Thank you for watching. Good night.